Coming to you entirely pre-recorded from the Garage of Solitude, I'm Mario Francisco Robles.
I'm Brett Miro.
And this is episode 151 of the Fanboy Podcast. Brett, what are you watching or playing this week?
Well, I actually finished, finally, HBO Max's Our Flag Means Death, which is a Taika Waititi joint. He's in it. I think he produced it. And a couple other great actors are in it. Very, very funny show. I've mentioned it before. Kind of has that What We Do in the Shadows vibe, although it is not a mockumentary style a la What We Do in the Shadows or The Office. Surprisingly, though, as you get a little deeper into the series, it becomes this very heartfelt yet still funny piece. And really, I don't want to spoil anything because actually it was kind of interesting how it went, but it became this very sweet, heartwarming kind of show, and I really loved it. And I think we just found out they just announced that there will be a season 2. It got greenlit.
They did. Yeah,
so I'm very happy. It's a very, very fun, sweet show, and I recommend everyone check it out. As far as what I've been playing, I have to confess. Last week when I did the solo podcast, I was talking about all these games I was trying to get into. I am having a really weird gaming vibe lately. I can't seem to find one thing that I want to play or that I want to stick with. I thought I was going to really get into Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and then I just started up and I walk around a little bit and it becomes very daunting and just overwhelming and I can't do it. I've dabbled back with Kirby. I'm still kind of making my way through that slowly. I've been still making my way through Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. I just began episode 7, so I've beaten the first 2 trilogies. I'm on the final trilogy now. So I've been doing that, stuff I've been playing already, but every time I try to start something new, I just get a little bit into it, and then I'm just kind of like, eh. The only thing that's kind of caught me a little bit, ironically, is not, I have these powerful systems and I can't seem to get into any of these really dazzling, high definition games right now. There's this game on Xbox Game Pass called Monster Sanctuary, which is kind of it's described as a Pokemon meets Metroidvania style, 2D side scroller. So you're capturing these creatures, and then it's kind of like an RPG. You're equipping them and leveling them up and all that fun stuff, and battling other creatures. But then there's also abilities that these creatures have that you equip on your team, and then you can use them to access different areas and get secrets and explore a little bit. And that seems to be the thing that's capturing my attention right now. Even though I have all these other things, and it's weird right now. It's a kind of a drought with games. There's stuff out. There's definitely stuff I missed, but nothing that's really up my alley. And there's not really any big releases on the horizon. Something that I could really sink my teeth into. We have
all the good stuff's been delayed.
All the good stuff's been delayed, and the only other thing I could think of right now for the time being coming up is Mario Strikers. Is it called? I forgot what it's called now. It's the new Mario soccer game, which is a sequel to the Wii one that came out back in 2008 or something. It came out 10, 12 years ago. But that actually looks really, really cool. It's got this NFL Blitz kind of vibe to it, and has a lot of character and a lot of the graphics look really good. It's made by Next Level Games, who more recently was developing the Luigi's Mansion games, which just are really a technical marvel for considering how powerful the Switch is. So I'm excited for that one, but that's something I'm going to dabble into. It's not something that I'm going to be spending hundreds of hours in. So that's where I'm at right now. I've just been lying week after week about all these games I keep saying I'm going to finish or go back 100%. I just can't get into it. I can't go back to Tunic. I can't go back to Death's Door, as much as I loved and adored those games and I beat them. I don't know. That's where I'm at right now.
Brett.
I'm a big liar. So what's up with you?
For me, well, let's see. First of all, I should note that I've had very little time for recreational TV viewing or video game watching between 6-week-old and the real crazy ramp up of my work season. It's just been nuts because this is the time of year where not only am I doing my usual events Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I also do a lot of end of the school year events and stuff. So in May and June, I'm working all kinds of odd hours doing graduation parties and proms and stuff for all these different schools all over New York. So I've just been completely exhausted for days and days. And when I'm home, I'm asleep or trying to get as much quality time with the kids as possible. So my viewing hasn't been that hot. But since it has been a couple weeks, I can update that my wife and I finally did catch up fully with the rest of the world when it comes to Better Call Saul, which I know that's not, I'm still trying to get you to fully commit to the Breaking Bad extended universe or
Yes.
Breaking Bad in general. But yeah, we caught up just as like the week of the mid-season finale happened to be when we caught up with the rest of the world. So we joined everyone just in time for a crazy cliffhanger that has, if you're a fan of the show, it's crazy what happened. I'm not going to go into it now, but yes, finally caught up with Better Call Saul. Very happy with that. I got to see the first half of that George Carlin documentary that you talked about last week on episode 150. Yes. I was kicking myself when you brought that up because I am a huge disciple of Carlin. Yeah, my father and my uncle like introduced me to Carl in the early 90s. I was like 8 or 9 years old, listening to him drop all this wisdom and all this knowledge with all of that colorful language of his, and I was riveted by what he. To me, he wasn't just a comedian; he was a truth teller. And this HBO documentary, directed by Judd Apatow, really does him justice. I can't wait to watch the second half. But folks, if you're into stand-up comedy, if you're into George Carlin, if you've ever read any of his interesting quotes or memes and how they pertain to today, even though he said them like 25 years ago, you owe it to yourself to check out the new George Carlin documentary on HBO.
Yes, you do.
Just as Brett told you last week, I'm doubling down on that. Carlin is the man, and he still is the man.
Even if you don't know him at all, like if you just want a documentary to watch on a fascinating person with a fascinating life and just like so many ups and downs, and I mentioned last week, like you'll see the documentary. It is incredible how many times this man completely reinvented himself. Whenever he got down, he was on like the downslope, he swung his way all the way back up. And it's that's just remarkable in its own right. So I mean, there's I think a reason to watch this, whether you're a fan, whether you're not a fan, whether you have no clue about him, only an inkling about him. They're really it's a really well done documentary.
Very true. Very true. He also, something I get a kick out of it, I always think about, is how he pioneered the way of approaching stand-up comedy, where you'll go on tour if you're a comedian and you're going to work until you get your hour. And once you've built your hour, now you basically celebrate by filming your special and releasing that album. And then once that's released to the world, now you retire all those jokes that you worked really hard touring and start a whole new hour from scratch. Like that was a Carlin thing, and a lot of comedians to this day follow that format too. And I just think that's cool. But so then aside from that, did I lose audio?
No,
Am
you're
I here? Okay, you got something got weird on my end. Sorry about that. In terms of games, I don't know. I'm kind of with you there, Brett. I've been having a hard time sinking my teeth into any kind of game stuff lately. I'll start some things. I'll nibble around the edges of certain things. I revisit old things. But lately, I don't know. I've been having a hard time finding that one game that's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do until we roll credits on this story at the end, But yes, I ain't playing much, and I haven't had a ton of time to see much. But thankfully, we have much to discuss this week, don't we?
That's right.
So let's get into this week's topics. I'm going to start things off. By the way, I should mention that last week you handled that Superman on film update with grace and a plum.
Thank you.
You really delved all that information real nice and deep for us, because there was so much to talk about, right?
So much.
But this week at least, there's a bit of an interesting rumor to kind of sift our way through. And first things first, I need to cite where it comes from, because here's why I think there's something interesting about this rumor, because it comes from The Wrap. And while I don't consider The Wrap on the same level as other like Variety or The Hollywood Reporter or Deadline, to me, those three are like, if they print it, it's the truth. It's an industry trade. This is what people who actually work for the film business read to find out about what's going on in the world. So The Wrap, though, to me is only like one notch below that. So the Wrap has been hearing some interesting updates about what's going on with ever since the merger between Discovery and Warner Media, and how David Zaslav seems to be approaching everything when it comes to DC on film, and in particular when it comes to Superman. So there's a quote making the rounds, and I kind of feel the need to kind of sift through what's true and what's weird creative BS that's come out of this quote, because and I kind of feel weird doing this because there's another site, I run Superman on Film, but there is a site that's been around forever that I really greatly trust called supermanhomepage.com. And Brett, they've got a headline that reads, rumor, Warner Brothers scrapping all Superman projects to bring back Henry Cavill. And you hear that, even one of our listeners, Mark, sent me that, and he wants to hear my feedback on that. But unfortunately, like, that rumor, the way that they put it is not exactly accurate. That's not what the Wrap claimed. So you see, the Wrap spoke to an insider there at DC, and the insider suggested that that's what they should do, that their Superman plans are all sort of in disarray, and that they need to essentially, scrap all the different Superman variant projects that are that are happening, and just focus everything on Henry Cavill. Now, that's just that's the opinion of a DC insider speaking off the record. That is not Discovery or David Zaslav or anyone who works for him claiming that this is what's going to happen. So I think it's important as we go through this rumor to keep in mind that a lot of it is just the opinion of one person who the Wrap spoke to. Okay, but I'm going to read you like the exact quotes that came out of the Wrap that have some people very excited. Okay,
please do.
So yes, and that's what I'm going to do. So if anything, okay. So when it comes to, first of all, when it comes to the whole idea of the cinematic universe, of having some sort of coherent overall overarching plan, it seems like they're viewing Walter Hamada, the current person calling the shots, as sort of a temporary person for now, that he's going to ride out his term while they work on finding that one person. Remember, we spoke about it a few episodes, this idea of like a central figurehead who runs DC, and not just DC on film, it's DC on film, on TV, and in print publications. This person would be responsible for DC in general, which is kind of cool to know that this person would have that much leeway and that much power. But in terms of whether or not they would try to make it like a coherent shared universe, here's some of the quotes that came out of that. If anything, they'll go back to individual movies unless DeLuca, who's one of the new co-chairmen, has some plan. Then the insider adds, they need to get a effing Superman movie off the ground, and if the plan is a shared universe, a Henry Cavill-led Superman needs to be the focal point. They should scratch every Superman project in development and start fresh with Cavill. So again, it sounds neat, but that's just an opinion. That's just somebody who may have some closeness to it. Maybe they work for Warner Brothers and Discovery, maybe, whatever, but that's just what they think should happen.
That's just like your opinion, man.
So that's why it's like, I saw that rumor and I started jumping up and down, especially because Superman page generally has a pretty good track record of just the facts, ma'am. Not editorializing, not adding weird clickbaity twists to the information. But yeah, to be perfectly clear, there is an insider who spoke to the Wrap who thinks that that's what they should do. We don't know for a fact that anything interesting is happening with Superman. This is all just in the rumor phase. But my overall takeaway from this is that the momentum is starting to build. Or we've been hearing for a few weeks now that Discovery and David Zaslav, ever since they took over, ever since the merger, they've been kind of sniffing around, going, "All right, what are we doing about our tentpole, our mainline hero, Superman, arguably one of the most recognizable characters in all of popular culture for well over 80 years? What are we doing, and why are we allowing him to languish?" So we've been hearing that. And now having the rap kind of add to this idea that, something has to be done about Superman, and they're hearing that something has to be done about Superman. If anything, it just continues to add to this idea that something's going on. Since the merger, they are reevaluating all plans regarding the Man of Steel, and some sort of plan is going to be released very, very soon. I hope. I don't know the very, very soon part. I don't know, but I know something. It just seems like something's coming, and I'm getting the sense, which you and I speculated on, that like with the new owners coming in, if they really feel like we need to get a new mainline pop culture Superman franchise going, they probably don't want all these variant what if alternate takes of the Superman mythology.
Sure.
They're going to want a traditional Superman story they could sell internationally. So I do have a sense that this insider might be onto something, or their opinion might be a well-shared opinion within the people doing this merger, that what are we doing wasting time making Wonder Twins, or worried about all these other random projects and variations of Superman when we don't even really have a Superman that we could turn to right now.
Right.
So it seems like they're trying to streamline, focus, find out what exactly is our goal here. Here's what our goal should be. And, they're getting their affairs in order. And that's all I really take out of it. This continued idea that post-merger, the new bosses are looking at the plans and streamlining them and simplifying them and going, we need a Superman in the pipeline that is a recognizable, beloved Superman. And what's it going to take to make that happen? And let's keep all these other things in the background while we figure that out. And I'm with all that.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Couple of things out of this. So if you are trying to, fast track a Superman film, if these studio execs and the powers that be pay any attention to like the online discourse and the fan base, they should probably know that the easiest way for the fan base to accept that and to get that rolling is to probably lead with Henry Cavill. I think for the most part, the Snyder Bros and I think the other parts of the fan base are all pretty positive on Henry Cavill. That he was never really like the issue. It was just maybe the films itself or the way like he was portrayed. But I don't think the actor Henry Cavill was ever the issue as being Clark, / Superman. So I think that if they're smart, I think maybe you do stick with Henry and kind of push that forward and get that going. The other thing is something we kind of, to follow up on something we talked about a few weeks ago. The rumor on the Ta-Nehisi Coates script was that, if I'm not mistaken, right, there was like a part in there that said that the way the script is written, it does kind of leave the door open for Henry Cavill. So that's interesting with this, guy. Obviously, this guy's, like we said, he's speculating. He's saying they should move forward with Henry Cavill and do all that stuff. But it's interesting to kind of piggyback those together and just wonder what might be. I definitely agree. Like, I think that's the smartest way in. You'll keep a lot of people happy. You'll keep the fan base on board. But now, now put him in a fucking film that is really going to make this character shine the way he should. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, give him his Captain America, the First Avenger, give him that movie that's really going to like usher him in to this age and say, hey, this is the guy that we have. This is the Superman that, story we're telling. And this is our next, several years with this character. Like, this is where we're going. And, make it a crowd pleaser.
Amen. And in general, one of the other big takeaways from that article too is that, like, in general, DC's film plans still seem to be somewhat up in the air, which is kind of frustrating to hear because I've been hearing so much about like things being in limbo, or there are things getting reboot or reset it, or a soft reboot or a hard reboot. For some, for the last like 6 years, we've been hearing about some overhaul of DC. and to hear that things still seem to be somewhat up in the air, as in like they even reference the Flash, where they say that they're still weighing out their options for the Flash, which we've discussed ad nauseum on the show, so we don't have to go too deep in it. But they did mention that once again they're trying to figure out what do we do about Ezra Miller and their mental health and the future of the Flash, because the Flash apparently set certain things up, but they're still deciding if they want to go down that way. And it still sounds like with the new bosses, there's some further assessing about the future and the plan.
Well, especially with the new bosses.
Especially with the bosses.
It was in limbo before we had new bosses.
Yeah.
Now you put new bosses in, so it's got to be a giant cluster.
I know. I want the plan to just be rolled out and happening already.
Yeah.
All this anticipation of what the DC universe is going to look and feel like post Snyder. I still feel like we're figuring out what it's going to be. And hearing that even at this stage of the game, now because of the merger, things are still kind of like, we don't know what happens after the Flash on June 23rd, 2023. We're going to figure out if we want to do more standalones or if we want to do more shared or what, it's just like, I want to hear that there's a plan and they're sticking to it and they're hiring great people to bring it to life and there's great logic and passion and thought going into this. And then I could just stand back as a fan and just wait for the great stories to come out. Constantly hearing about how things are in limbo, or are they going to overhaul the reboot? Are they going to reboot the overhaul? Are they going to, I'm done. I'm done.
Well, they got to do it right.
They got to do it right.
We might be in this limbo for a little longer because when they make that announcement, it needs to be the right one. It really does.
Yes, it does. But all right, folks. So that was your Superman on film update for the week. Just that the Wrap has added to the conversation. To this idea that maybe they should just scrap everything and focus everything back on Henry Cavill. If they are going to try to do a shared universe thing, stick with the Superman you've already introduced and who fans still care about. So that is your Superman on film update for the week. But now let's talk. This is going to be a bit of a detour, Brett, but I'm taking us to another June 23rd release. See, the universe cares about my birthday, Brett.
Apparently.
Because next year on June 23rd will be The Flash. And on Thursday of this week, Paramount Plus released the trailer for Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. And I couldn't believe when I saw when it's going to begin streaming. It's going to hit Paramount Plus on June 23rd, my birthday.
Yes.
Now, look, I rarely get to gush about Beavis and Butthead, but back in the mid-90s, when that was on, that was the coolest thing. I watched.
It was.
I had VHSs of it. I would record it every night, the 10 and the 10:30 episodes. I'd cut out the commercials. I still have the VHSs somewhere. But Beavis and Butthead, to me, that was like the height of hilarity. Think about it. I was like 12 or 13 when they reached their popularity.
Yeah.
I was the target demo, and they had me hook, line, and sinker. And I remember like my dad taking me and one of my school friends to the movies to see Beavis and Butthead Do America, and how awesome that was to see like the little cartoon that me and Dad would watch late at night on the weekends now has a movie, and we're seeing So here we are all these years later. We're finally getting a sequel. Mike Judge in general has signed this lucrative deal with Viacom, where not only is he doing the Beavis and Butthead sequel, but he's also doing a continued Beavis and Butthead TV series, as well as some additional new like Adult Swim type, humor, animation for adults type stuff for Paramount Plus specifically. Like they hired Mike Judge's epic brain to oversee all
King of the
that
Hill
kind of
back
stuff.
as well. Isn't that
I think so
back
too. Yeah,
I remember
positive.
reading about that.
So it's like I'm just inject the Mike Judge in my veins between Beavis and Butthead, between Office Space, between Silicon Valley on HBO. Like Mike, to me, Judge can do no wrong. So, did you get a chance to see the trailer for Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe?
I did, and at first I kind of like rolled my eyes when I first saw it. I was like, "Wow, we're bringing, it's the nostalgia train, right? We're bringing
Yeah,
everything back. Everything old is new again. Everything from our childhood. It really is like I can't believe like how much our generation, like everything is just being recycled. It's wild to see, and it makes me feel old.
yeah,
I
yeah,
digress. Anyway, that said, I watched the trailer fully expecting to just be like, "Oh man, this is so stupid," and it is stupid.
it
But
is.
I could not stop grinning like a fucking 13-year-old again, and
Yeah,
I was like, "All right, I'm in. It's coming to streaming. Like it's like there's a low bar for entry. I don't really have to invest anything other
yeah,
than a
it's
little bit
true.
of time." And you know what? It looks fucking stupid and funny and exactly what I expected. But like
Yep.
I shouldn't even say exactly what I expected. Like I was expecting it to, at least from the trailer, to be a little cheaper than it ended up being. I'm like, oh no, this actually looks pretty good. It looks
Yeah,
pretty funny. So I think there might be something decent there. Hopefully they didn't blow all the good gags in the trailer. Hopefully
yeah,
there's like a lot
yeah,
more
yeah,
meat to it. But yeah, it looks fun. It looks, all the juvenile humor is there. There's definitely some like Bill and Ted vibes with this one, which I'm like
yeah.
all in. I'm all in for. And
Yep.
yeah, man, they don't sound weird. They sound the same, because that's always a
Yeah.
scary thing when you revisit these franchises. You're like, that voice sounds off, but no, it
Yep.
looks to be the Mike Judge production that we would have wanted. So hey,
Yep. Yep. And also just to like, speaking of like satirical minds, because we were talking about like George Carlin and who has quotes from 25 years ago that are still
sure,
pertinent, and how I think about like, oh man, what would George have to say about today? Because there are certain people who like you want to know what that mind thinks of a certain
yeah,
situation. And having Mike Judge in 2022 use his satirical mind on the world at large via Beavis and Butthead, I'm down for that, because that's always been the charm of that show too. Because like on the surface, it's total idiocy. It's dumb
yeah,
teenagers doing dumb things, but the genius of it is he's actually commenting on the youth of America, and he's
right,
commenting on stuff about our society that he has opinions about. So it's always been like that kind of weird lowbrow, highbrow. Mike Judge is great at that. And
yep,
I kind of can't wait to see what Mike Judge has to say about the current shithole we currently are living in
yeah,
right now in this
basically,
country. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. And the trailer has me sold. And I guess I'm adding another streamer. I guess I'm going to be
yeah,
splitting Paramount Plus with somebody soon.
yeah.
But yeah, okay. So now this next topic, this one's yours, Brett, because you're the video game expert. And on Thursday night, Sony dropped some interesting stuff on us, didn't they?
Oh, they sure did. So, Sony announced just like a few days ago, really randomly, they're like, we're going to have a state of play, which is like their little digital presentation to kind of give an update what's going on in the world of
Because
PlayStation.
E3 was canceled.
Because E3's gone, and funny thing too is Jeff Keighley is running his Summer Games Fest, which is sort of like the replacement E3. And at the very last minute, Nintendo Sony actually slapped a Summer Game Fest little like what do you call
Oh,
it, like
really?
label on this thing. So apparently this is a part of Summer Game Fest, even though Summer Game Fest doesn't actually start till next week. So I guess this is like, all right, it's a
Good.
little early present, and this is a part of Summer Game Fest. So they added the branding. So there was definitely several announcements. It was like a half-hour presentation. I just want to roll through real quick on a few of them. And they
Sure.
actually opened it up with something, Mario, that is near and dear to both of our hearts. And it's kind of, I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show, but it is one of the reasons we became friends and like started coming
Yes.
into each other's circle. They
Yes.
announced the long-rumored Resident Evil 4 remake. So they remade one a long time ago. We just recently
Mhm.
got 2 and 3 remakes, while they've been moving the series forward with 7 and 8 with the first person perspective. But Resident Evil 4 is getting that visual makeover with the over the shoulder style, and it was very they kind of just showed little clips, no real gameplay. Or I don't know, it could have been in-engine stuff, but it was just very little clips of different environments. And
Yep.
boy, does it look beautiful! I mean, that RE engine that they've developed at Capcom is just like unbelievable. I mean, if you played Resident
Yeah.
Evil 7, Biohazard, or 8 Village, or like I said, 2 or 3, they look incredible. So I
Mhm.
am very excited for this. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I played that game straight through. I don't know how many freaking times. I played it on GameCube when it came out as a GameCube exclusive. I played it again on Wii when they re-released it, and I've probably done multiple playthroughs on each console. So I cannot wait for this. Supposedly they are really, because one of the things I've been worried about is 2 was remade amazing, but for people that played 3, I never played the original 3, and I actually haven't played the remake of 3. But apparently the game was abridged quite a bit. They cut some sections out, and it was a much shorter game. So I'm really hoping that Capcom understands how amazing the original Resident Evil 4 is, and that they are keeping the entire breadth of the game in there. That's cool if they want to like add some things or maybe tweak little things here and there just to keep us on our toes, and for people that are like played the shit out of that game, have something new and exciting. But I really hope they don't like remove anything. I hope it's just like maybe like if you want to do a little reimagining, you want to expand things, fine, but please do not take anything out. That game is pretty near perfect in my opinion. It really is. So I just cannot fucking wait. So
the Resident Evil 4. There, Before you go into further games please. Thing, I feel like since you teased it, I'm just going to share it here on the show. So the time is it's roughly spring of 2005. Yeah. And I'm in a rehearsal for a musical called The Pajama Game at Queens College. And by night, I'm staying up very late playing Resident Evil 4 every night during this point in my life because it had just arrived and I was obsessed with it. And the whole new mechanic and being Leon Kennedy again and the crazy setting. And I was just dying for someone to speak to about it. But for whatever reason, a lot of my friends at that time weren't playing anymore. They were all kind of like, oh, I'm 19. I don't play video games anymore. Funny how things have changed. Right. But yeah, so a lot of my friends weren't playing with it. And suddenly I'm at a rehearsal for The Pajama Game. And I start hearing this excitable voice somewhere else in the rehearsal space talking about Resident Evil 4. It was amazing. And this guy's a chainsaw. And I just hear this person I'm like, I got to find who that is. And that person was Brett Miro. It was me. And I went over, and we started talking and we started fanboying over RE4. And lo and behold, it's funny how to think. Here we are 17 years later, and we're talking about an RE4 remake on our podcast. Yeah. Life's a trip.
it really is a blast. So and we also got a release date. It is coming out March 24th, 2023. So we do have some time to wait. Okay. But we got an actual date, and surprisingly not for Capcom, but just for any video game company, they've been like pretty legit when they've been announcing release dates. They've been hitting all of them. The last several Resident Evil games, I don't think anything's gotten delayed. They've been like really nailing down their production timeline. So I feel confident. Unlike anybody. I mean, really. If really you wanted to talk some shit, Microsoft like had to delay 2 of their huge titles from the fall, and they have no first party games announced coming out the rest of the year. That's fucking bad. Anyway, so that was the first announcement. So you start off with that. The next, I'm not going to go through all of them. Like I said, there's a couple that I wanted to pick out. The next one that was really cool was this game Stray. I may have talked about it before. It was announced actually like a year or 2 ago. They kept showing footage of it, and I've been waiting to hear a release date. The premise is you're actually like a cat. And the reason I actually give a shit about it is that you're a little orange, like tabby cat, and it reminds me of my cat Phil, who I lost last year. And I was just like, oh my god, this is like Phil speaking to me. So you're a little cat, and you're in like this futuristic world that is filled with robots. The art style is kind of like realistic, but it has like this really, really just cool look to the world, and the way like the robots are. They look a little like retro and like CRT TVs and screens, and I don't know, it just looks really neat. And you're like kind of platforming around and exploring. And it doesn't look like a combat game. You're a cat, so you can't really fight things. But it looks like there's enemies out there, and you're just trying to like dodge them. And I don't really know anything else about it.
Yeah, but in the description I read, it said you could do lots of cat things like knock stuff down and lick your own butthole.
So I think someone was being snarky. I don't know if you can do that, but like
I hope you can. I've always wanted a game where I could lick my own butthole.
I've always wanted to do that. That's how you recover health.
Miyamoto was always dreaming that we'd get here one day.
Yeah, one day we'll be there. Realistic cat ass licking. But I don't know. The game just looks very intriguing. I love the way it looks. It's obviously gonna be running, I think, on like PS5 and I don't know if it's announced for anything else other than PlayStation right now. Maybe a PC, but it looks really cool. So I don't know. If you don't know anything about it, it's called Stray. Check it out. It looks like something that might be up my alley.
You can lick your own butthole.
And yes, you can also lick your own butthole. That's probably the most important takeaway here is that you can lick your own butthole. And I don't think that's true. I actually hope you can't, because that's really gonna that's gonna be the only thing anyone's talking about, and it's gonna totally overshadow
the only thing I'm gonna do. I'm
the
gonna
only
buy the game just to do that.
Press X to lick butthole. Now, the other announcement is the Callisto Protocol. So this is a game we've known about that's being developed. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, being developed by the creators of PUBG, or it has some kind of link to them. That's PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, for those that are not in the gaming world. Now, also, the person heading up this project, if I'm not mistaken, was the creator or one of the lead minds behind Dead Space, which is a beloved survival horror franchise. Resident Evil in space, more or less. And this game also looks like it takes place in space. And from what I've seen of this trailer, it gave me huge Dead Space, Resident Evil vibes, maybe more Dead Space. And it looks fucking gruesome and bloody and gory and horrifying and scary. And I'm all in. So the Callisto Protocol, I would highly recommend you check out that trailer. It looks gnarly. Interestingly enough, we are getting a Dead Space 1 remake from the ground up reimagining in January. EA, a studio at EA, I forgot if it's Motive. I don't know which team it is, but they're actually developing it from the ground up, brand new. So it's not just like a remaster, and they're going to be expanding the lore a little bit. And the hope is, I guess, that this does well, they will maybe, either do a reimagining of the second one too, or maybe they'll use that to jump off and make a brand new, a Dead Space 4, something we never got. So interesting enough that, this is coming, and this is coming out December 2nd. So it's coming out a month before the Dead Space remake, unless that gets delayed. So that's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of comparisons back and forth. But hey, hopefully they're both good and we get 2 new awesome survival horror entries to play within the next, 6 to 7 months. The final thing that I want to talk about.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
I didn't actually plan to do that. That was good.
Really?
Yeah, no, I didn't do that. So Final Fantasy 16. So we've known this game is in development. We know it's coming out. We got a nice, pretty new trailer. Listen, Square Enix knows how to make a beautiful looking video game. We know that they are just masters of cinematic storytelling and just the visuals of the game. So what I like about Final Fantasy 16 coming off. So I'm just to get a little background. I didn't play the original NES Final Fantasy, and it's not something that I desire to go back to now, just because it's very slow and grindy, and doesn't have the quality of life improvements I expect out of a game. I fell in love with the Final Fantasy series from Final Fantasy VI. It's known as 6 in Japan. In America, it was called Final Fantasy 3. So that's what made me fall in love with Japanese RPGs and the series in general. I actually did not play Final Fantasy VII when it initially came out because I did not have a PlayStation. I know that's kind of everyone's favorite. Having now played both of them at this point, Final Fantasy VI is better. Don't at me. And I skipped actually a lot of Final Fantasy, so I didn't really haven't played that much of the series. But I jumped back on board with Final Fantasy 15, which was kind of a mess when it launched. And we know there's this whole, you can go track the development of that game. It was in development hell for years. But despite the mess that game was, I absolutely adored it. I loved it. I fell in love with it. I put 125 hours into it.
Wow.
I did the extra special dungeons after beating the game. I got all the best armor, the best weapons. I was really, really into it. Then we finally got the Final Fantasy VII remake, which was long rumored and everyone was hoping for, and I played the shit out of that, and it was awesome. And I have played the original now at this point, so I got to enjoy the remake, and actually get where it came from. But that game's also tremendous, and we're waiting on part 2 of that to come out. So I'm in a Final Fantasy renaissance now. I love these action RPGs. I like that they've kind of gotten away from the turn-based, but there are little elements of turn-based in there if you want them. You can still kind of slow down the combat and do that. So anyway, FF16 now is coming out, and it looks like they're fully going back to this like medieval style of the game. A lot of the Final Fantasy, especially recent years, have had this kind of sci-fi tinge to them, a little more futuristic steampunk kind of mixed with fantasy. And it looks like for this one, they're going back full fantasy mode, which like, might as well. It's called Final Fantasy. So give me that high fantasy look. Like I said, it looks stunning. There has all the big summons that you would expect. In this game, they're called icons with a weird spelling because whatever, EIKON, instead of, I think in FF7, it was the materia and they were called summons. FF6, they were called espers. They have a different name for it in every game. But yeah, interestingly enough, it looks like that's a really big part of it. They looked like they were like giant kaiju battles between the summons, and it looked just friggin' awesome. So I wonder how that's all going to play out. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of political intrigue. It's about this like new world, this new land, and there's like 6 different realms with different rulers, and each one of them is represented by one of these like icons. And I'm really into the story. It's actually the director that's been directing the Final Fantasy 14 MMO, which we know when that launch was a giant mess, but now is like one of the top MMOs ever, and supposedly it's amazing, and they just like totally stuck with that game and overhauled it, and like a lot of people are even saying it's like the best Final Fantasy. Like it's incredible. Supposedly I don't play PC games, so and I think it might be on consoles too, but it's not something I'm going to dive into. But yeah, it's that guy. So he's got a lot of goodwill after what he did with that game, and they're doing that. Interestingly enough, though, we had rumors recently that the game was basically done. It's playable from start to finish, and they're just polishing. So I was expecting it to maybe like get a surprise announcement to drop this year, but they gave a window of summer 2023. So we have a whole nother year to wait for this game, but I don't think it's going to disappoint. It looks pretty amazing, and that's going to be harnessing like the full power of the PS5. So I am very excited to jump back into my crazy, too much dialogue, wild particle effects everywhere, numbers flying out, crazy little bars, doing some fucking moves, doing some fucking specials, abilities, maybe having a party. I'm not even sure if there's a party because I just see this one brooding like dude with dark hair that's just beating the shit out of everybody. Looks great. I don't know. I'm in. Let's do it. FF16, baby. So that was Sony State of Play. So that's my quick update. I don't know. Street Fighter 6 was in there, but I'm not into fighting games anymore, and that's coming out next year. And one honorable mention. There was something called Roller Drome, which is like this like kind of animated looking art style. But I don't know, look kind of cool. Like you're basically a person on straight up on roller skates with guns, and you're just like roller skating and doing stunts. Like it looked like Tony Hawk meets like a third person shooter. And I was like, this looks kind of weird and kind of cool. And we'll see. Like maybe I'll dip into that when that comes out. I think that might be coming out in like August or something. So could be something fun, depending how much it costs. I don't know. Yeah.
In all, I feel like it doesn't say much about Sony's State of Play when the thing we're most excited about is a remake from a game that came out 17 years ago, But
we're really feeling the effects of COVID on game development. Everyone thought we were feeling it in 2020, 2021, but like now is when you're really feeling it, when like most of these developers and companies have probably had games in development and, we're like 2 years along, and that all the COVID and the work from home stuff really set people back. And now this year they're all having to like rescope and be like, yo, we're not hitting a 2022 release date internally that they planned. They're just not hitting it. And that's why you're not getting these announcements. So, hey, it's a backlog year. You go into your backlog and play some old games.
I put myself into the shoes of the people who have to put together these kinds of presentations and being like, hang on, really? This is what we got?
Do we have anything to show?
We're going to show people a remake of a game that came out 17 years ago and has had like 4 different reissues already. Right. Okay, let's do it. I guess that's what we've got,
That's what it is now.
All right, so that was Sony's State of Play. And now we're going to shift gears on over to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And before we get into the review and whatnot, there was some interesting news, an interesting rumor made the rounds this week, courtesy of Making Star Wars, which is a very reputable Star Wars news site. And apparently there is talk of converting Obi-Wan Kenobi from a limited series event that was just going to take place over these 6 episodes into an ongoing series where there might actually be a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, again, this is all still in the rumor. This is just a rumor phase. Nothing's been confirmed. But according to Making Star Wars, they're also they're so serious about this prospect of extending things that they're even currently tweaking the finale so that certain characters are able to come back in season 2. So I guess maybe there was going to be a major death or two. And so that certain plot lines that were possibly originally concluded are now actually going to get extended in the finale. If they do end up pulling the trigger on this, which I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, episode 3 just aired. There's only 3 weeks left of the show. When are they going to determine whether or not they want to do season 2? I feel like they probably know, but maybe they're just keeping it close to the vest. I don't know. Right. But either way, I'm excited because I remember when I was talking to someone about the show recently about how much I'm enjoying it so far and how much some of the interesting seeds that they've planted there. And when I told them, though, this isn't like The Mandalorian that's going to have 3 or 4 seasons, that right now it's supposed to literally just be these 6 episodes. They were like, what? No, they can't. Why would they do that to us? So it seems like, for those of you who are digging the Kenobi thing and want more of it, it sounds like that may be happening. But, all right. So look, this week also, when it comes to reviews and whatnot, I did not watch Superman and Lois this week. And Brett did. Brett is a good man. See, I'm going to blame the show. I'm going to blame the CW for getting me out of my rhythm. Okay. If it was on every Tuesday at 9, the way it was supposed to be, guess what I'd be doing every Tuesday at 9. But since they like to disappear for weeks and weeks at a time after an episode or two, I'm just out of the loop. So I didn't even realize that there had been a new episode this week. So next week, when we return with episode 152, we will be discussing this week's episode of Superman and Lois, as well as next week's, unless there's another hiatus in here.
I did read that there is going to be a hiatus before the finale. So, and I don't know where we're at now, how many we have left, but I think we might get another 1 or 2, and then there's going to be a wait, and then the finale, which is, I mean, it is what it is, right? They were trying to work around all the COVID crap, and that seems to just be delay and everything. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, the show we are going to talk about this week is Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is now 3 episodes into its run. And Brett, so what are you thinking so far? You've watched all 3. What is the overall? Is it a thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down so far?
Yeah, I'll give you some general thoughts. I 2 thumbs up. I am absolutely loving it. It is so awesome to see Ewan McGregor back in the role. He brings a certain gravitas to Star Wars, and he really does. And I absolutely love it. I love the way the show looks. I love the tone. It is quite dark. Especially after episode 3, we'll get into some of the details, but I was like, whoa, there was some really wild stuff in there. And
when the stormtrooper falls off a roof and just gets cut in half by a laser gate.
I'm not even talking about that. I think we'll save it when we talk about episode 3, but that was awesome. In general, I'm loving the show. So far with these Star Wars shows, obviously Mandalorian has been my favorite. I loved season 1 of The Mandalorian. I love season 2 as well, but that definitely had a different feel than season 1. Obi-Wan feels more like season 1 of The Mandalorian to me. And Boba Fett, I was I think I had stated while I enjoyed it, I was not wild about it. It was a little meh for me. My favorite episodes were the 2 where they totally left the whole Boba Fett story and just did 2 Mandalorian episodes, which that's not a good thing for your show that's called Boba Fett. And, the finale had its moments. There was some cool stuff with him. He wrote a fucking Rancor. That was rad. But, other than that series was kind of weird for me. So this is really tremendous. It also gives me very much Rogue One vibes. And the way the show looks too, just the coloring and the hue, I don't know if you like noticed like some of like I think like Rogue One and Solo, a Star Wars story, and now especially Obi-Wan have this similar like visual aesthetic to it, which I even think is still a little different than even how the Mandalorian looks subtly. At least to me, it could just be in my head.
Yeah.
But they seem to have some kind of like unified look to them, and I
Yeah.
love the pacing of this. I know some people have been saying it's like kind of like slow, but like he's again one of those things like with Moon Knight. I did not love that show, but I could just watch Oscar Isaac act for hours and hours.
Yeah,
And it's like
yeah,
with
yeah.
Ewan
Similar
McGregor, like
thing.
you give
Yeah.
me all the slow
Just give me time
panning
with
things,
him. Yeah.
and just give me time looking at his face because he's just like he's got a lot to work with, and he's given it all. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really love what I've seen so far. But yeah, what are your kind of like general thoughts? And then maybe we can start picking into some of the episodes.
Sure. Well, actually, since you're talking McGregor specifically right now,
Yeah,
I wanted to say something because like I love his acting and I'm loving seeing him back, and it's such a trip to see him back in this role after all these years, and he's kind of around the age he should be, considering
yeah,
it's been 10 years since the prequels and whatever. But one thing that I don't think McGregor has in him is that ability to seem like a badass action hero type. And to me, like in a couple of the scenes where we see him like clearing a room of enemies, there's something about it that to me feels a little bit like he doesn't pull off that I'm a badass action star type of guy. Like even like Mandalorian, like I know it's not necessarily Pedro Pascal as a person in a helmet, whatever, stunt performers, like Mando looks like a badass, and the way he moves, like there's just something about it. McGregor seems a little like, I don't know what it is. I don't want to. This is a terrible comparison, and we're speaking positively about the show, but there's something about his movements when he's doing the action scenes that almost reminds me of like Iron Fist, with that guy who didn't really learn any martial arts but had to play a martial artist, and you could tell they taught him just enough to get through those scenes. Sometimes McGregor, I kind of get the sense to it, like he doesn't look like he could convincingly beat anyone up, but here he is clearing 6 or 7 guys at a time. That's my one thing, that he doesn't have
I will
that action
say
hero thing.
I can get that, but I will say like number one, I don't think Obi-Wan is that guy. Number two, especially in episode 3 when we see him kind of go up against Vader, this is a dude who's been alone as a hermit on the desert for 10 years and is almost like partially severed from the Force at this point. So I really think like the rusty look could be, he's a little sloppy. He takes a couple of hits. He takes some shots. He's smart. He's witty. And that's how he gets out of some of these situations. He's resourceful. Maybe that's the word for it.
Yeah.
I will give it that. But at the same time, well, finish your thoughts because then I'll kind of maybe like link it back because there's something a little weird about some movement stuff in the show. But
all right, I want to hear your thoughts on that. But so something else I'm loving right now too is like getting to spend time in certain locales that we've only ever really heard of or glimpsed in the past, like getting to spend some real time on Alderaan, who for the longest time Alderaan was just this planet that exploded in episode 4. And then, in the prequels, we get a little bit of time to kind of get to know Bail Organa and Jimmy Smits, who, by the way, I'm so glad he got the call back to play Bail Organa again, because he's someone who, like, by the way, when he was first coming up as an actor, he acted on my family theater stage here in New York. He was like, I feel a certain kinship to Jimmy. He's like a cousin, a distant older cousin. So knowing that he got that call, and not only did he get to reprise him in Rogue One for a quick moment, but now he gets to play him on this Disney Plus series. I'm like, go get him, Jimmy. But getting to spend time on Alderaan and seeing what that place is like, I love just kind of having further time or further opportunities to explore these characters and these settings we've only ever just heard of, right? And then this surprise to all this stuff with Leia. I didn't know from the trailers that Leia was going to factor in so huge on the story. And I'm loving that. And
that was a cool surprise. They didn't talk about that at all. I didn't even see rumors about it. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh wow, that was like that's the thing I love. I love being surprised when I don't have to like see so much shit spoiled on the internet. It's just really
Yeah.
nice. You get those
Yeah,
moments.
and then the thing for me though is it's funny 'cause I saw people write about it. I think I sent you one of the columns on this, but I felt
Yeah.
it myself just watching episode 1, which is when she gets kidnapped and then Obi-Wan now is put on the given the task of trying to find her and keeping a low profile because no one can really know why she's so special and all that. It
Mm-hmm.
dawned on me. I'm like, this is where Leia and Obi-Wan establish some kind of bond and relationship. This
Yes.
is going to add depth to episode 4. That little holographic message that's stuck in the R2, though the thing that begins the entire journey, the very first Star Wars movie that came out happened because R2 transmitted a message from Leia to Obi-Wan. And in that, there was always like a familiarity with the way she spoke of him, as if she knew that this man could help me. This
Yeah.
man on the outskirts of the universe has enough in him to help me with this terrible crisis. But we never really knew why, right? It's never been shown in a movie why Leia would know Obi-Wan from a hole in the wall. And now this story is going to clearly build on that, and now we know why Leia, when the chips are down, we're in crisis, she thinks of "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope." And I'm like, oh, I just got goosebumps on the back of my head thinking about
Yeah.
that. So yes, I'm loving it so far. I'm big thumbs up. I have a couple of things here and there I'm a little on, but overall, this has been a worthwhile story to tell, and I'm
Sure.
so glad to see Kenobi back. So now, with episode 1 in particular, were there any notes, anything that popped out at you that you wanted to talk about?
In particular, I really like, again, I'll go back to kind of like how dark this show is, and I like that they went there and really showing like how much Obi-Wan has changed after the events of Revenge of the Sith. I mean, I think it's one of the Safdie brothers actually is like that Jedi that's like running away from the Inquisitors and approaches Obi-Wan and says like, you need to like help, and he's just like, I'm not that guy anymore, man, and like
Yeah.
straight up, and then like sees him dead hanging from like a freaking sign in the town the next day.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, like the Obi-Wan I knew would never let that happen, and this guy is like he's really off the path.
Even in
Also, I
episode
mean,
3, we'll get to that,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, even in episode 3. Then you had that was a great moment. I love that he's just kind of doing this like mundane like job. He's like a butcher basically, or he's just like
Yeah.
carving out but being a butcher. And the other part I thought that was pretty neat. What was it? It was totally lost my train of thought. That was super cool that I loved about it.
Was
The
it
Owen,
Uncle
the
Owen?
whole yeah,
I was
Uncle
about to
Owen.
say
Like,
Uncle Owen. Yeah.
Uncle Owen. That conversation was so great.
Have
And
you trained
the
his
whole
father?
yeah, he's like and I love Ewan's voice too. He's like, when the boy comes of age, he must be trained. And he's like you trained his father. And I was like, oh, you're such a dick, Owen, but
But
you're
it's
right.
funny though, because if you go look, Uncle Owen has like 1 or 2 scenes in episode 4, and he always comes off as like cantankerous and rough around the edges. He's going to tell you what
Yeah.
he really thinks. So I love that Joel Edgerton now actually gets to play that Owen.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, I totally get why he's that guy. And then
Yeah.
they had that, they've been so good. Deborah Chow I think has been directing every episode, and like, wow, yeah,
Mhm.
give her the reins, man. She knows what she's doing. Like that tension when the Inquisitors are there and she's in Owen's face and is just like, someone tell me where the Jedi is, or I'm just gonna kill this dude and his whole family. Like I was like, whoa.
And that still doesn't get Obi-Wan out of the shadows. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and he still doesn't
Yeah.
go out. Yeah, I mean,
He's
they did
that
some
scared.
really amazing characterization in that first episode. Did you have
Yeah.
anything for the first episode before we talk about the second one?
Well, the only thing is we're talking about the Inquisitors. I'm not fully sold on the third sister. I feel like there's something about like her design or her performance. I'm not really sure. Like it's not coming together for me. You look at the three Inquisitors, right? You have Rupert Friend, who looks like this crazy, like pinhead without the pins, alien
Yeah.
creature. Then you've got like the Asian guy who's got this crazy like helmet and alien looking skin face, and his voice is all
Uh-huh.
augmented. And then you just have this chick in black with like regular hair just talking. Like, you know, like everyone around her looks alien and somehow super stylized and scary and Sith like. And for her to, I feel like her design is a little, it's just some lady talking to me. I don't know.
Well,
Something about like
yeah.
her stuff is not really landing for me. If she's supposed to be imposing or scary or something, I'm not getting it yet. So I don't know. Or maybe
Right.
that's not what she's supposed to be. Maybe they're setting her up to be a sympathetic figure. There was that interesting moment in episode 3 where she sees a thing on the wall of that underground
It's the
railroad.
Jedi logo, their emblem.
Yeah. But she seems like moved by it. It makes me wonder, are we going to
Yeah.
find out that she's like Mace Windu's like daughter or something? You know, so maybe she's a hero. I don't know. But if
Yeah,
she's
so I have
supposed
a
to be
theory
like
about that.
villain, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a couple of things. So, because there's actually been a lot of discourse around her online. Unfortunately, a lot of
Oh,
it
I know people are
shitty,
being dicks. Yeah, I'm
just
not
being really shitty.
Yeah.
And I can understand if it's not clicking for you. So for me, a couple of quick things. So, Jedi Fallen Order, that game that came out a few years ago, that takes place around this time period, has the second sister, and she's like the main bad guy, and she actually is just like the way the character is portrayed is just like a human female of like Indian descent. So it doesn't bother me that Riva is just like some regular person.
Okay.
Yeah, because like they have that's in the ranks.
Gotcha.
Also, I think I think Rupert Friend, like, I think he just looks stupid with his weird German Hitler pants. And actually, so for me, I think he looks stupider than everybody, my opinion. So that's number one. Number two, then, in the first 2 episodes, Riva had a total of like 5 minutes and 50 seconds of screen time, and everyone's bitching and moaning about her characterization. I'm like, she's been on screen for 5 minutes. Calm the hell down. Then episode 3, great point. I was going to bring that up. When she does go into the tunnel and sees the Jedi emblem, there is something there. And now I want to take you back to the opening of the first episode when there were a bunch of children escaping Order 66. And there was a little black girl there. So I have a very strong feeling that she was probably, and they mentioned too something that like a lot of the Jedi younglings went missing and were never seen again and something like that. So I find it very possible that she did end up getting caught and then was brought into the fold to become an Inquisitor, become a Sith, and then eventually work her way up to an Inquisitor. She's incredibly ambitious. The thing though that's kind of annoying is, and you mentioned, I have a feeling they are going to set her up for a redemption arc. And I'm just so sick of seeing that. Like, we had the Vader redemption arc. We did it with Kylo Ren again, which I really hated that they did a redemption arc for him too. I wish they just kept him evil, because I didn't feel like it was even earned by the end of that new trilogy. And it just kind of played out, that thing. So I kind of hope it looks like they're going to probably go that direction, but I hope they do like a little twist and it doesn't happen. But yeah, so I don't know. In the 3rd episode, I thought she showed a lot better. Again, I didn't have a problem with her in the first 2 episodes, but I think, and maybe, I don't know if you agree with me, in the 3rd episode, she was definitely a little more of a presence. And I'll say that she was more of a presence and more of her motivation. And I think it's cool to have like someone in there in the ranks there that she's like, well, even in the 2nd episode, right? She killed the freaking Grand Inquisitor, possibly. We don't know that for sure, 100%. But yeah, I think that's kind of cool that she's like really going it because she wants to impress Vader. I don't have a problem with the character. So
yeah, did you notice that Ali Alston from Superman and Lois is also in this show now? She was in there as one of these alien-looking Inquisitor types in the 3rd episode.
Oh, is she the other female alien with the weird things?
Yeah,
that is her. I thought she looked familiar. That's so funny.
I could be wrong, but the face looks exactly like her. I'm almost positive that's her.
Quite possible.
And again, to me, like, she was another one. All the people in this little league of people who are hunting Kenobi are some kind of heightened alien form, and then there's just Riva. I think this was my one thing. She stands out for being just so plainly a human lady who I could see at the store on the corner. But anyway, I
Right.
digress. Yeah, episode 2, I don't remember much specifically about it. I just remember that's where finally now Obi-Wan, he goes and he makes the rescue, and we kind of get to see Obi-Wan out on assignment doing his thing and being
we're in Dayo, which is kind of like a Blade Runner-y looking. It kind of looks like the shady parts of Coruscant. Whatever.
Yeah.
I freaking
Although to me it looked almost
or the Swap Sea.
Yeah. I'm not sure either, honestly, but
it's Coruscant.
To me, let's go with that. But to me, it was almost too much like Blade Runner. It was almost like, all right, we get it. You going for that kind of style. Like, okay.
I'm a sucker for that look. So, but I get it. It was a little too close, but
it looked like Star Wars doing their version of Blade Runner. Like, all right, fine, with the flying cars and the noir looking streets. And I get it. I'll accept it.
Kumail Nanjiani as the Jedi con man was actually really, really good. I loved it. I loved it. It was good. Yeah. We should also talk about randomly. I was like, is that fucking Flea? It's Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Shows up and he kidnaps Leia.
Leia.
And he gets Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan meths him. He just throws Star Wars meth at him, and he escapes. It was awesome.
And it's like, Flea's funny because like not only is he in now the Back to the Future trilogy, one of my all-time favorite things ever, but now he also is in the Star Wars galaxy. So who knew?
He gets around.
Flea's been around.
Yeah.
Speaking of
which,
unfortunately
met a poor end. Things did not go well for him at the end. He got drugged, and then he just got like helicopter bladed by a lightsaber. His face went off.
That's what happened.
It is what it is.
Leia. It's what you deserve. But also something, just a subtle thing. I love that before the first episode, first of all, unlike all the other shows, it's the only one that opens with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah. Because this is the first one that's like really connected to movie character. Mando really, obviously he was original. And then even Boba Fett, that was its own, they were going a unique way with it. But this one gets the legit a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then it recaps the entire prequel trilogy, showing like the core arc of Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Which was like, really by the way, that was beautiful. That was done really well. Yeah. And it hit all the important beats. Yeah. And it gave me the friggin' feels, man.
It set you up perfectly. And it's like, it made me think about even like when Peacemaker debuted. In the very first episode, it says previously on the Suicide Squad. Because again, what is the lead into Peacemaker? It's not another season of Peacemaker. It's this movie. And what is the lead into Kenobi? It's not anything else anyone's seen. It's episodes 1, 2, and 3. So I just love the idea of, for all these movie spin-off TV shows, to have a previously on that includes the movie. I just think that's kind of like a new novel way of telling these stories. And when I was having that conversation with someone about how like they should give Kenobi a chance and so on and so forth, they mentioned like, oh, but I haven't seen the prequels in forever. I'm like, don't worry. They recap everything you need to really know about that relationship, gets recapped in the first like 90 seconds. So you don't even need it. So I just wanted to point that I love that. Sure. I love hearing John Williams' music in there. He made an original theme for Obi-Wan, and they've also, since this is set firmly in like the Kenobi / Skywalker verse, I feel like they've been a little looser when it comes to incorporating music motifs from the original trilogy. The newer movies don't, the newer TV shows don't do any of that because they're supposed, they're covering new ground. Right. But since we're in Kenobi, there have been some great little standout moments of like, you get to hear some of that original trilogy music, and I'm all about that. I'm also all about getting to see Anakin again, seeing Hayden Christensen back in this role. When they showed his crazy looking face right before the credits rolled in episode 2, I was like, I couldn't wait for episode 3 to finally come out. And then episode 3
they showed him getting assembled, the arm coming on and like all that, getting suited up. It was really, really rad.
That was rad. And then even like when Obi-Wan looks and he thinks he sees him in the distance, and it's not Darth Vader, it's just Anakin as he remembers him in a dark cloak.
Dude,
I got
chills
chills.
right now.
I'm like,
Chills. The hairs on my arm are
incredible.
standing right now.
Yep.
That was. Oh, I mean, we should talk real quick too. Like while we're getting into the Anakin Darth Vader stuff, I want to talk about all
Yeah.
that. But in the end of the second episode, when Reva reveals to him that Anakin survived, it hadn't even dawned on me that he thought he was fucking dead this entire time for like the past like what is it, 10 years? Is it that long?
Yeah.
He didn't even know. It's been 10 years.
He thought he died on Mustafar.
They had this friggin' just close up on his face, and Ewan McGregor just acted the shit out of it. And I was like, oh, I felt all of that. That was really, really well done. So then, then we get into episode. Oh, yeah. You want to comment on that?
No, I was just gonna say, and like even piggybacking onto that, the tension and the fear is palpable in episode 3 when he senses him. Remember that moment where like they open up the underground railroad tunnel, they're gonna escape, and all of a sudden he gets like dizzy and woozy. He feels this crazy like disturbance, and mind you, like you said, he's been a little cut off from the Force. He's trying to like distance himself from the Jedi Order and all that stuff. But this breaks through all that, and he almost like can't stay on his feet. And then when he's looking through the door and seeing him down the corridor, you could feel the sweat and the fear on Obi-Wan, realizing like, whoa, there he is. And while I've spent 10 years hiding and letting my skills get rusty, and I've been just trying to forget all that, he's been completely basking in his hatred and just getting stronger and stronger in the ways of the dark side. So he also knows too, like, I can't mess with this form of enemy. And when they later on have the fight, it's clear that Anakin has just been getting stronger every day these last 10 years, while Obi-Wan he's not that guy anymore. And he's a far cry from that guy.
So let's talk about let's talk about episode 3 when Vader shows up. Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan is looking at him through the little slits in the door. He sees him, and the people, he's just throwing things around, throwing things out to clear ways and see it. That one guy comes, dude, the one guy comes out of the house. He holds him up and like just chokes him out. Just straight up chokes him out and kills him. And it looks like it's like his son comes out. And when that happened, I went like, oh shit. Like he should have just went and snapped the kid's neck. It was like a teenager, man. He just snapped his neck.
Brutal.
I was like, whoa, this is what they're. Oh my, it's this Vader. Like we're
dragging an old lady or something too,
right?
He
was dragging a lady across the floor. I was like, whoa, they're not messing around. So then, we finally have them meet, and there's this one. So there's a moment. I don't know if I'm hearing things. I listened to it like 50 times today, but for me in my head canon, I'm gonna go with this because
what have you become?
Made me feel all kinds of things. So when he says, "What have you become?" he comes back with, "I am what you made me." Now, I don't know if it was in my head initially when I first watched it, and then, like I said, I listened like 20 times today before this podcast. But when he first says, "I am," I could swear you hear a little bit of Hayden Christensen's voice on the "I am" before it clicks fully into the Vader voice. And for me, it gave me chills because for me, it was almost like he mustered everything he had to speak that without the stupid machine and the voice changer and like get that out. And I don't know, like I listened to it a million times today, but there's something with the intonation there. And I'm like, I was actually talking to SMB Ryan on Twitter. He's like one of the friends of Batman on Film. I think it's Ryan Haas.
SMB is Super Mario Brothers, by the way. He loves the original.
I know he's a big Mario Brothers movie fan. So he had mentioned, he put that line on there, and then I commented. I said, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I heard that, and he was like, "Yeah, there's definitely something vulnerable in his voice there." And he's like, "I really want to see the behind the scenes." And I mean, go back and listen to that one part when he says, "I am." You actually hear the Anakin's true voice, and then it clicks back into the robot thing. And for that, like, I just felt so many emotions. I was like, oh my God, like that was him like giving everything to just like talk out of this stupid machine that he's become. And it really was like, for me, it was like a really emotional moment. And I mean, like the whole time he's one-handing Obi-Wan. If you notice, he just lightsaber with one hand the entire time while Obi is doing everything he can, changing grip on the lightsaber to try to hold him back. And Vader, like, listen, Vader, we see in that whole third act that lasts like 10 minutes,
he's
which was like
merciless.
so tense. But he also, like, he could have probably just killed Obi-Wan right there, but he wanted to
that's what I was,
play with him. And it's sick.
And that's what I was getting at, though. Like, in other words, they established that he's merciless. You know, the way it looks like he just killed a man and his son. He just terrorized this village trying to scare Obi-Wan out of the shadows. Yeah. And very clearly he could demolish Obi-Wan if he wanted right now. Yeah. But it's almost like he doesn't want to do it this way. Like, it's like, think about it. Imagine you've been waiting to get revenge on someone forever. And you finally get to them and they're just a shell of themselves. And like, this would almost be too easy. This wouldn't even be satisfying.
It's almost like pathetic, like,
it's like, oh, this is what I've been waiting to do. So like, you could tell like there's almost a part of him that like wants Kenobi to like, come on, where's the real you? Where's the one who beat me back on Mustafar? Right. So, I mean, there's so many cool angles to this, Brett.
Yeah,
I want to talk about the voice in general, though, too, because I think that there is some magical Hollywood trickery that I don't think they would even reveal on the making of show. Because look, James Earl Jones is amazing; he's a legend, but the man's in his 90s. And
he's credited, by the way. I think you might say that.
He's good at it, but what I'm going to say is, like,
in the episode as the voice.
Yeah, no, I know it's him. I know it's him. That's what I'm saying. Like, but when he voiced him in 2017 or in 2016 for Rogue One, you could hear the age. You could hear he was a little softer. It didn't have the same power. So how is it now, 5 years, he sounds like the Vader of old, right?
Yeah, they did some
I feel like
stuff.
I think they did a thing. And listen, with modern technology, you could essentially make like a filter, like we were used to like video filters. I'm pretty sure Lucasfilm has made like a badass Vader filter so that they could take James Earl Jones's voice and make it sound even sharper and more, Vader.
Yeah, listen, if they could do what they did with Luke's face and Luke's voice, they 100%, 1,000% use that technology to sharpen that too.
Yeah, because to me, it's night and day. If you go back to Rogue One, I remember it was cool. Like, oh wow, they actually got him, but you could hear like, but maybe they should have got a sound alike, But this time around, they got him, and no, I have no regrets that he sounds like Darth Vader. But again, I would not be surprised if it's all just like it's some computer program that takes the voice and makes it sound however they really want it to sound.
So I'm curious too what you think. So we have like 3 episodes left. Obviously, we saw that one shot of Hayden Christensen as Anakin in that like little hallucination that Obi-Wan had when he was looking off. And we've seen him like all scarred up and getting suited up quick. Do you think like we'll actually see Hayden as Darth Vader? Like maybe he's going to have the helmet off and talk to him? Or like, do you think we'll get that? Because it's just like, are we just going to see Hayden Christensen as Anakin in these like weird hallucination things, or like in maybe some kind of flashback that they do in a future episode? And we know it's him in the suit walking around, and he had like a physicality like helper to like make sure that he's matching the movement of Vader. Apparently they went like real hard into that, but like, do you think we'll get to like see him outside of the suit a little bit, all scarred up and maybe communicating in some way? Because my opinion, I want to see that. I would love if he takes the helmet off and they have like a fight like that or something. Could be really cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, see, I have a feeling that we haven't seen the last of him in like human form. That cloaked sort of illusion that Obi-Wan saw in the desert. I wouldn't be surprised if now that he's confronted him Anakin maybe shows up in dreams or in other stuff where Obi-Wan is trying to reconcile what happened between the two of them, you know.
Right.
In terms of seeing him in his current form, helmetless and talking, I'm not sure if we're going to get there in 3 episodes. I don't know.
It just
'Cause I
feels
feel
like
like
to me like you had Hayden Christensen and he is in the suit and Vader. Like we should maybe
you
get
got
a
to
little
show him.
glimpse of him. Like you maybe show him and not just like a quick little shot, but like maybe show him. Maybe a little bit we get him with the top of the helmet off or something and him, you know, confronting Obi-Wan.
We got that one crazy shot with the eyes and the face as episode
Yeah,
2.
but he's in the tank. He's in the back to tank, whatever. So it's like I don't know. The other thing I wanted to jump in real quick too. So if they, you know, they were very specific on the scenes they showed in that recap, you know, before we get into the first episode, and we get the shot of Yoda telling him that he's going to teach him how to communicate with Qui-Gon, with his master. And we've had a couple of shots of him trying to reach out and contact Qui-Gon to no avail. Are we going to see Liam? Are we going to see Liam?
Dude, we're going to see holographic Liam Neeson. I don't think you do that.
And I want it.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think you do the tease unless you're ready to deliver on it.
Yeah.
So,
and he is coming back to voice Qui-Gon in the Tales of the Jedi animated series that's coming out. That was just officially announced. There's going to be Qui-Gon stories of Qui-Gon, I think, training. Did he train under Count Dooku? Or
I think he did.
I think he did. So I think that is one of the sections of the episodes. They're going to actually go back and show younger Qui-Gon. And apparently Liam Neeson is cast as voicing him in the animated series. So I'm like, so they must have got him back for this too. It's like that only adds more credence to it.
Yeah, and for a Force ghost, which is a little blurry and obscured and glowy anyway, you could have 73-year-old Liam Neeson, whatever he is now. You know, he'll look just like he should because
they can de-age him a little bit. He looks really good for his age too, actually. So
he does.
He might totally be fine.
Put
the goatee on, make the goatee a little thicker, get rid of those lines right here. You're all good.
For sure. And just in general too, I think the other thing I want to hit on in episode 3 that I really liked was Leia seeing perhaps her first real female role model for like woman fighting for good and who has to go undercover and has to do things to try to make things right. You know, that I forget the character's name, but the one who, you know, helps spring them out of
I don't recall the name either.
And then she basically leads her down that corridor and teaches her about how they've been helping, you know, hide all these Jedi and get them into new lives and whatever. During those little scenes where Leia's asking her questions, you could tell like Leia's looking to her, and this is someone who's going to influence who Leia grows up to be. You know, because back in Alderaan, she kind of has a sheltered life and everything is like, oh, you're a princess and you're this and you're that. But here on this adventure she's having with Obi-Wan, she's learning, you know, important things
and
about
inspires her for the resistance, for the rebellion. You know, like
exactly. Even that thing too about like the Empire. I thought they were here to help us. And Obi-Wan's like, yeah, well, you know, it used to be that way, but now we've sort of lost it. And everything's gone to hell. It sounds like today, doesn't it? It sounds like the government today. You know, like they were supposed to help us. So yeah, I seized on that thing where with the female role model, with the way she was watching her and piecing together the importance of this mission. You could see how like this sets up Leia to want to grow up to be a freedom fighter and fight against the Empire and what, you know, at all costs.
Right.
You know, so. I love that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Do you have any more Kenobi thoughts you want to share, Bretterson?
Well, I have one more thing. I want to circle back to we talked about the rumor now that Obi-Wan is not going to be just a limited series. It's going to maybe go on for more seasons. So, first of all, like we still have 3 episodes left, so it's so fucking early because I don't know what the story is ultimately, where it's actually going to leave off. You know, the assumption was always that we were going to get to this Vader Obi-Wan showdown, and I don't think episode 3 was it. There is going to be another meeting of them for sure, like 1,000%, where they actually really go at it. Maybe Obi-Wan will get some of his Jedi groove back, and it'll be a real fight this time. But you know, the way just how dark and emotional this series has been so far, and I fully expect it to continue that. It just seems, if it is going to end with that, like, them meeting, having a battle, obviously we know they both live on, so like no one's going to die in this. And, Obi-Wan then goes back to his solitary life on Tatooine. It seems like weird almost to have a second season, because it's like you're not going to rehash this again and have him run into Vader again, because that's going to sour it. So it's like, then it's just like somewhat just like some random, like, are they just going to like make up some rando adventure for him to go on while he's on Tatooine again?
I mean,
like,
there's always the possibility
I just don't see like, how is it going to hit the emotional heights that this series is going to hit? I feel like I don't know where you go from here. That's what
The only place I could see them possibly going is we wrap up the Vader stuff here and we leave the Vader stuff alone, because going back to that well too many times is going to lead to diminishing returns. But what if the rumor of Darth Maul comes back and it's more he's the bad for season 2? Because remember, they did seem to set him up as being a presence in this world at this time. Because Solo, a Star Wars story, takes place during this same chunk of time between episodes 3 and 4, and it's like it's several years before episode 4, because he's still young Han Solo, but it's also several years after episode 3, so it's still somewhere in this general range, which means that Darth Maul and his robot legs are out there somewhere. The Darth Maul who's pulling strings with Emilia Clarke's character and all that stuff, he's out there. So it would be interesting.
Supposedly, I guess, not involved with Vader or the Emperor, so he's doing his own thing. Presumably, so he's not like chilling with other Sith. Like, he's just got his own whatever going on.
And what would be interesting there is, as far as we know, there aren't further plans for Darth Maul, right? So this season, he confronts Vader, but he can't kill him because we still need Vader to be around. In season 2, he could kill Darth Maul because we don't really need him anymore. They could finally make that call and have him defeat that boogeyman if they do want to go back and bring him back. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know where they're going to go, but I guess the Darth Maul thing seems like like a viable path. You know what I mean?
The only other thing is maybe they could have Obi-Wan hunt down the rest of the, because as far as we know, by the original trilogy there are no more Inquisitors. So maybe we have Obi-Wan go after all the Inquisitors, but I feel like that's still going to make you run into Vader. Like, how would Vader not be in on that? Because he is the direct control, he's the head of the Inquisitors, I guess. That's kind of his crew. So I just don't know, but it just
maybe they should just end it after 6.
I kind of liked that it was going to be a limited series.
Yeah.
Not everything needs a fucking sequel and a continuation. If they make this really nice, tight-knit 6-episode arc and it's satisfying, and I halfway through I'm very satisfied, so if they can continue that, maybe that's it. That's cool. We're done. We don't need to go back to the well again. The only other thing I can think of too is we have the Ahsoka series coming out, which we know takes place after the original trilogy in that Mandalorian timeline where she's hunting down Grand Admiral Thrawn and stuff. But she is around at this point too during this Obi-Wan series, because she trained under Anakin before he turned to Vader.
Yeah.
She also had a fight with Vader, I think, in the Clone Wars TV show. She battled him, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I wonder if they maybe him, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka could join up and then hunt the Inquisitors down in the second series. So that could be a thing too they could do. I don't know. Yeah,
I guess we're just gonna have to see. But we have 3 more episodes of Kenobi to get through. We'll be reacting to them each week, along with Superman and Lois episodes. And you know what? Today, The Boys returned on Amazon. And in fact, if you were paying attention to your Amazon app last night on June 2nd, one night early, they dropped The Boys 3 24 hours early. So that might be a show that we're also going to have to watch weekly and talk about, because I love me some of The Boys.
Yeah, I love it. So I think we should definitely add that to the rotation.
Yeah, and with Superman and Lois seemingly done like in another 4 episodes and another 5 hiatuses, we're gonna need some stuff to talk about. So, but yeah, so I think that about does it for episode 151 of the Fanboy Podcast. Brett, how can people find you?
You can
On
find me
social media?
on the
Not in
Twitter.
Massapequa. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't find me there. You won't find me. You can find me on Twitter at Super BrettCon. And yeah, that's the only place I'm really doing anything. So just, yeah, find me there.
Good. You can find me at Superman on Film, all one word. And you can follow this show right here at The Fanboy Show over on the Twitter. And if you have not yet liked or rated or reviewed the show, please go ahead and do that. We have yet to get a review since the reboot that includes your thoughts on one Brett Thomas Miro being here on the show with me. So come on, let's break the let's break the drought. Let's get some fresh reviews. We'll read them out loud. They'll make Brett happy, and they'll make
we
him
need to capitalize on the algorithm. Okay, when you comment, when you review, it does stuff to the algorithm. It puts us in front of more like-minded people's faces, and it helps us grow the show. So please comment, please review, please subscribe, please share, do all the fun things. And yeah, definitely, again, don't forget to we have an email address, don't we? Don't forget to email us at TheFanboyPodcast@gmail.com. We love listener submitted topics. It helps make the show better. We love to hear your feedback there, your suggestions, and also hit us up on Twitter at all of our lovely handles right there, and we love to communicate with you on there.
Yes, and if you do that, if you're the person who breaks the drought and gives us a review that includes Brett and I will then start a petition to the makers of Stray to make sure that they have a butthole licking option in that video game.
We will make sure.
Serious we are. Yes. So until next week, be kind
and stay fanboy.
Adios.
So long.